has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey everybody, happy Thursday night, happy May the 4th, happy Star Wars Day. Very excited to be here. Hope you guys can hear me okay. I am here at the haunted and historic Scott County Jail. And tonight we're doing some special tours here at the jail. So I'm actually over here in the visitation room while Dr. Christy Sumner is giving the tours. So yeah, a little closed in space, actually kind of locked in here in the visitation area. So very excited to be here tonight. Like I said, I am the Ghost Biker, and here we are in May. Got a great guest tonight. Got a lot of great things going on. So just want to say hello to a few people that's over here in the audience. We've got Miss Janet Ong, and we've got Sylvain. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And you guys, I've been looking forward to this show for a while. We originally had to reschedule back a little while back with tonight's guest because it was when I was traveling to South Carolina. And so I've been excited to have him on for a couple months now. And if you like haunted dolls, haunted collections, then you're going to enjoy tonight's show because we definitely have a treat. Hello, Miss Sonia Thompson. She was recently just here at the jail this week visiting and taking a tour. And so we really appreciate that and appreciate the support. So I want to get into a few things that we've got going on here. Like I said, they're giving some special tours here at the jail. Today is Star Wars Day, and so we've changed things up here at the jail and are doing our normal flashlight tours by lightsaber. And so we've got some special trivia and just the traditional histories and ghost stories of the jail here. But we've got a group that's in here right now that's taken the tour. So very excited to see pictures and hear a bunch of details about that. We may extend those dates. There was some interest, and so we may extend that. Tomorrow is Revenge of the 5th. So if anyone is interested, please visit the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and historicscottcojail.com. You can find that on the website there. I'll try to put that information in here and book your tour. We will extend that for tomorrow night if anybody is interested. So please let us know. We do know it is Cinco de Mayo, so a lot of people will be out running around and everything. So, but we do welcome you here to the jail and hope you'll join us for one of those flashlight tours. Another big thing that's going on at the jail, that Ghost Biker Explorations, the jail, the Widow's Sons Motorcycle Riders Association, which is the Masonic Riders Association. We are very excited to be partnering with them. This is the 3rd annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship dart run that we're going to be doing. It's going to be taking place on May 20th. And I wanted to highlight this event because it is coming up here in a few weeks here in early May. And so the funds for that, it is a scholarship that's named in honor of my dad. And he was a 30-year educator with the Scott County school system as well as Morgan County school system. And so he taught chemistry and physics. And so this scholarship, this is the 3rd year we're giving this out. It is a $1,000 scholarship, and it goes to a student who is majoring in the field of science. So we've already had a couple people donating to that, so we graciously thank you for that. We are putting together a button so that if you can't attend the event, you can also make a donation. So I just want to take a few minutes, show a video that highlights from last year, and then we'll talk just a few more minutes about it and then bring on tonight's guest. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see here, get it started.
case you break one.
Because this year we are able to give $1,000 scholarship to a student who is going to field science. So, like I said, we are doing this event here on May 20th. And, what's a dart run, you ask? It is basically, we've got 3 stops. You play a hand of darts at each stop, and the winner of that wins. Last year, they won a really cool trophy, but all the funds from that does go to this scholarship. It is $20, and that does include your meal ticket. And I know we showed a lot of bikes on there, but it is open to all vehicles. We welcome whether you're on 2 wheels or whether you're in a cage, whatever you want to do. Come on out and support this cause. Miss Gracie King was the one that won last year, and she was going to use that scholarship to pursue a career in nursing. So we have picked this year's winner. We will be presenting to that winner at the event on May 20th. So it starts at 10. You come out. The first stop is going to be at the Scott County Masonic Lodge down in Robbins, Tennessee, off Sims Road. The second stop is going to be Dilligaff Cycle Shop. And then the third stop will be here at the historic Scott County Jail, where a food truck will be, and we'll be announcing that winner. So again, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. And hopefully you guys will join us. We'll be highlighting more videos from past events, as well as highlighting the information that comes out. So again, we're going to go ahead and get to tonight's guest. Yes, Janet Holmes, we can't wait to hear about the haunted dolls. And welcome, Northern Adventures. Glad you're catching us for the first time live. So hopefully you'll tune in again in the future. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get to tonight's guest. He is not only a writer, but he is also an associate producer out of Alabama. He's written and published both fiction and nonfiction books, and is a paranormal investigator and an avid collector of haunted items. Kevin has a vast collection of haunted items, mostly haunted dolls, but also including haunted paintings, toys, tools, and jewelry that he has inherited from investigations and from other paranormal investigators. His YouTube channel, My Haunted Dolls, shares videos weekly regarding the haunted items. 2 of the items have even appeared on television's Travel Channel, one of the shows, The Dead Files, and the other, Ghost Nation. So he's going to be sharing all of that and much more. So let's go ahead and welcome Mr. Kevin Cain from Alabama. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share some of your stories, and also share your collection.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoy doing stuff like this.
Absolutely. I know you and I had the privilege of meeting, I guess it's been almost 5 years ago, down in Alabama at the Bigfoot convention.
Yeah, what was that, 2017 or 18? I can't even remember.
I know, I guess it was 18. So what have you been up to since then?
Just doing the same thing. Oh gosh, I've probably put out 3 or 4 books since that event. In fact, I got a short story collection that I published last year, sort of horror stories. So this audience would probably love that.
Oh,
But
very
other than that,
nice.
I've still been keeping with the collection back here. Outside of my day job, I got to pay the bills, but
Gotta get more of those collection items.
yeah, but I've still added some dolls to the collection back there, trying not to go overboard with it, because I've only got so much room here. And gosh, there's a motorcycle going by. Can you hear that?
I could hear that. And just for anybody that's watching, if you guys have any questions about what Kevin does or his collection, please feel free to put those over there in the comments, and we will pull those up. So, so how did you actually get started collecting these items?
Oh, let's see. I started 2013. Before that, I had been doing my own paranormal investigations going back to 2003. So, God, it's been 20 years.
Wow.
And I'd always loved ghost stories and things since I was a kid. And I had just joined Scare of Alabama with Kim Johnston back in 2013 and published my first book. And that same year, I got my first haunted doll, Patty, who was given to me by a friend of mine that used to work with us, who has since gone to the other side. But she knew at the time she didn't have long, and she was passing out some of her items that her family didn't want. And she told me about this doll she had. She said, I heard you join a ghost team, that you like ghosts. I said, yeah. She said, well, I've got a haunted doll. And like a lot of people, the first thing I think of when I hear haunted doll is like Chucky running around, or, something scary out of the movies. But she said, no, this isn't anything like that. It's just a doll, but it has a ghost story with it. And she had bought this in Minnesota at an estate sale, or not Minnesota, it was Michigan, White Cloud, Michigan.
Okay.
And the person she bought it from told her there was a little girl named Patty who owned that doll and who had died at the age of 7. She was the daughter of a prostitute, and mama didn't take very good care of her, left her alone a lot, and Patty accidentally ate some of her mama's drugs thinking it was candy, colorful Skittles in a bag. And she went to sleep that night and didn't wake up. I think it was the neighbor that found her the next morning when mom didn't return home. And this doll was given to her by that neighbor, several months before she died. It was the only toy she ever had. And she had it with her everywhere she went. And she slept with it next to her bed. So when she died, it seemed her spirit stuck around with that doll. Because everybody that had it after would talk about hearing a little girl talking, singing, little footsteps. So when she told me about this, I thought, what a sweet story, but I didn't really believe it. I thought, a doll, come on now. But I got it home to my little town home I was living in at that time. Never had any ghostly experiences at home. I always kept that out, And all of a sudden, I'm getting tugs on my shirt like there's a child there. I'm hearing giggles. In my pictures, I'm getting a little ball of light, not like these dust orbs, but like solid balls of light near the doll. Okay. And then I started setting up recordings. I said, if there's a ghost with this doll, I'm going to catch it.
Right.
So late at night, my first EVP session in home, and I would have never have done it in home, but, now I've got a haunted doll, like there's no choice. I'm going to have to do it here.
Right.
And so I'm up at 1:00 in the morning, pitch black outside. I'm sounding like I'm drunk on the recording because I'm half asleep. I'm cooing at this little, I'm thinking, what do you say to a child? I'm cooing, I'm telling stories, I'm singing to this doll, looking like some crazy. And then I end the recording and say, I got to go to bed now, sweet pie. Good night, something like that. And when I turn the recording off, you hear a little voice say, righteous.
Oh, wow.
And the next morning when I heard that, played it back, nothing else on the recording. I thought, once again, a failure. And then right at the last few seconds, there it was. And I got excited and scared at the same time because I was excited, like, this is haunted. And at the same time, going, what the hell did I just bring into my house? But I decided to start researching haunted items. I realized, a house can be haunted. I guess an item, an object could be. Mm-hmm. And I got to know other paranormal investigators online, because my team had not done haunted items before. So I got to know a lady just over in Georgia, Cherie Shun. Mm-hmm. She's got a bigger collection than me. and a few other people, and they started, rehoming some of their items with me. They said, your little girl might want a friend to play with. So by that time, I was moving into a new home, and it just started from there. And now, from one doll named Patty, I know over 300 items, and most of them are dolls. And this is
Wow.
just one room back there.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
more back behind there. You can't see it from here.
So do you just have them just like, do you have them in a special room or do you just have them all over your house?
Here, there's some here. The items that are supposed to have the really little child spirits are in there in my room, so they're close by me because I feel like I'm kind of partially sensitive, and I can feel like they
Mhm.
want a parent figure nearby at nighttime.
Mhm.
So I keep them there, and I make sure those are the safe items. I don't want something sleeping next to me like this booger back here that had a demonic attached to it.
Oh,
But but yeah, just these two rooms. There's a few others, but I try to keep them here because my elderly dad lives with me now, and he doesn't want to, be around all that. So
yeah, no doubt. So we've actually got a lot of questions here, and I've got a lot of questions myself. So I'm going to pull a few of these up here. Janet asks, she says, "Where do you get your haunted dolls from?"
most of them come from other collectors and investigators who I know personally. I've had some here locally. Several. There's a bride doll up here, and several other things I've gotten from people who my paranormal team and I have visited in their homes, and they would say, "Hey, this doll here or whatever it is creepy. Can you take it? Because I don't want it anymore." So yeah, I'll take it. And if it's something that we've confirmed, like I have a nowhere in here, I've got it sealed up in the attic, a mirror that I had blessed that we took from a client's home, that he had gone out to a cemetery with a Ouija board and had played around with it out there by himself.
Okay.
And he brought something home with him. So that those following weeks, he and his wife and daughter were experiencing all kinds of weird things, scratches. His wife claimed something slapped her awake. His little daughter was getting her hair pulled in the middle of the night. And so he called us in, and one of our sensitives with us detected a lot of activity around the mirror hanging in the hallway. She says that's the portal they're using.
Wow.
So we
Okay.
set up some cameras and we're filming this mirror. And we left the room. We're watching on the monitor in another part of the house, and we're seeing shadows going back and forth. So to test it, we took the mirror out on the front porch and put the
Mm-hmm.
camera out there. Now the shadows are out there, and there's nothing in the house going on.
Wow.
So I said, all
Okay.
right, I'll take it and, get it blessed, pray over, and all that. And when I did, the activity dropped a lot in his house. So that was my first negative item that I had ever taken, and my first time learning how to bless an item. And
Okay.
since then, that's come in handy. But yeah, that's mostly how they come, was through clients. People contact me, and other collectors and investigators reach out, and if they need to rehome some items.
Gotcha. So, would you say that out of your items, the majority are not negative? I mean, that the attachments that if there isn't a negative attachment to one, that it's not, not I don't want to say few and far between, but less likely than just an active item.
Yeah, most of mine are very peaceful, and most of them, because it's dolls, there are some dolls that have adult spirits with them, but most of them it's spirit children. Mostly girls, some boys, and they're very peaceful. In fact, there's a lot of time that goes by here that I don't have any experiences going on, and then certain times a year just kicks up. And some people think, well, it must be Halloween, but surprisingly enough, I don't get a lot during October. It's usually toward the end of the year, early in the beginning of the year. February, for some reason, is an active month. I sat here with my camera recording little footsteps up in the attic.
Oh,
walking
wow.
around one night. My cat had alerted me she was sitting up looking up like she could see something. And I turned my TV off and listened, and there were little footsteps. So I recorded it, and I didn't hear it, but on playback, I caught a little, like a child whimpering or a baby, making a whimpering noise. So
Wow.
my cat was definitely sensing something, and I'm glad I stopped and took notice and started recording because that was some pretty good activity.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm glad you were paying attention to that. North Ian Adventures says, when you say haunted, do you mean the items are haunted or the items came from haunted locations?
Some of them both, but yeah, the items themselves are what's attracting the whatever spirit is I say attached to it. These aren't, and I have to clarify to people a lot of times, these aren't spirits that are trapped in the doll, peeking out, going help, and or making the doll get up and dance. It's kind of like the same as a house. They're just hanging around it. So they might make the doll move a little bit, but they're not trapped in it or stuck with it. They can kind of freely go. And but yeah, so mainly the items are hanging around, but there are some. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's a little doll carriage back here on this display case
Uh-huh.
that came from a very haunted house in Arizona. And the investigator that offered it to me, she said that it just kept appearing around the house and it wasn't there before. And the owner swore they'd never seen it before. But the
Okay.
activity was so high that they had to leave the house and they never went back. They left their stuff, but they swore they never owned a carriage. And yet that thing showed up during the investigation in one of the closets.
That's
And
creepy.
the investigator claimed she never saw it there before when they did their walkthrough. But it's had some activity. I tried it out with a spirit box and I kept getting a little girl asking for her doll. So I stuck a little doll in there that I bought, just a little secondhand doll from the store. And then the next time I do a EVP or spirit box, she's saying she's happy and she even named the doll. So it's obviously a little girl spirit. But you have to be careful with these child spirits. I hear that demonics can a lot of times take the form of a child and trick you. And I haven't come across that yet as far as my senses. If I get around something evil, I either feel like I want to throw up or I get the shakes.
Okay.
And so the few I've had that had something bad, that's what happened. But this carriage didn't have anything negative like that with it. So, but yeah, some of these do. Oh, there's a rocking horse doll back there that came from a house, an abandoned house in West Jefferson they call Crybaby House.
Okay.
And the guy I work with who went out there to explore, he has a YouTube channel, but he's not a paranormal. He just likes to explore abandoned places.
Mm-hmm.
And this house, he had heard it was haunted, but he was just going more for the exploration. And the owner doesn't have anything to do with the house. It's just sitting out there in the woods, falling into disrepair. But in the early 70s, the story was a man shot and killed his two daughters and his wife, and then went in the
Mm.
bathroom and turned the gun on himself and killed himself.
Wow.
And when my coworker tells me about this, I'm thinking that sounds like a lot of urban legends I've heard. And I'd heard of this house out in the woods because I'm from West Jefferson, but I never put much stock in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But when he brought me the rocking horse doll he found in the house and the owner let him have it, he said all these broken toys and this doll is just sitting there under rubble, untouched.
Oh, wow.
So I get it home from work. He brought it to work and gave it to me. And I bring it home and bring it in, put it in the doll room of that house I was living in at the time. And I turned on my alarm, locked the doors, went to shower. And before I get in the shower, the alarm starts going off. And I
Oh.
come in back out of the bedroom to the front and I see the garage door is just at that time swinging open. Somehow it had gone unlocked
Mm.
and opened itself, which that's what set the alarm off. So I turned that off and I'm wondering, is this that doll I just brought home? And I go look in the room where the doll is just in time to see it rocking a little bit
Oh.
and then it stops. So that Friday night, I did a spirit box session, and the only time this has ever happened to me during a spirit box session, I'm asking questions about the house, and I hear a woman's voice say, "John, stop." And then twice I hear the sound of a shotgun blasting through the spirit box. Like, you know, just as clear. It's on my YouTube channel out there under the rocking horse doll video.
Okay.
Never had anything like that through the spirit box before. It just chilled me to the bone hearing those
Oh,
gunshots and knowing where that came from. And I think during that video, there was an anomaly floating around too that I captured on video. So it's, ooh. It seems like the ones from the haunted houses get a lot more activity than the ones that are just themselves haunted, it seems like. But yeah,
so
it can, sometimes it's both. It's because it's from a haunted location or it's because some spirit has attached itself to it.
and that's a great observation that you've made, as far as the fact that uh, coming from the haunted location versus just a haunted doll. Do you have a theory as to why these spirits like to attach to some of these haunted items? Really, just a haunted item in general.
Yeah. I think, well, some of these, when I get the stories with these items, it's that the spirit, when they were alive, once owned that item. So it doesn't surprise me if they passed on, if they're sticking around something that's familiar to them, especially a child who's died so young and suddenly,
Mhm.
and they're confused and they have this toy they loved and they just kind of stick with that, I guess, because it's like
Mhm.
a safety anchor for them, something like that. But other times, especially with adults, I wonder when I do these spirit box sessions and ask questions, sometimes I get answers like I might hear spouse or, my child. And I get to thinking, maybe the doll reminds them of their former spouse, or they had a child they lost when they were alive and that doll reminds them of that child, or maybe they died while the child was still a child and that doll reminds them of that child. Um, One of these dolls I've got up there, another one of the bride dolls that came from the UK, my friend over there in Scotland. She says the woman haunting that was a bride herself when she died. She died the day of her wedding. And
Oh.
that's why she attached that doll because it's reminds her of her wedding day. Then, a marriage she didn't get to enjoy because she died so young.
Mhm. Wow. And that's do you find that you like and we're just kind of showing some we're not playing the audio, but we're just kind of unless know where the part on the video where it is. I was just going to kind of have it playing in the background, the one you had mentioned of the rocking horse doll. But it's really that's really fascinating to me the, the reason that dolls or items themselves are haunted. Have you found that you enjoy investigating the haunted dolls or the haunted items more than the locations? Or does it just depend on the story behind it itself, as to why you're there at the location?
I just, it just well, I guess it depends on the story. But I do find myself investigating items more nowadays, especially with the COVID a few years ago. Kim Johnston and all of us in the team, we just stopped getting contacted right before COVID happened. I
Mhm.
think our last investigation was late 2019 until this year. Earlier this year, we did an investigation at Homewood Library. And for the last 3 or 4 years, it's just been the items that I've been investigating. And I seem to enjoy that more now that I speak about that because I don't know, how can I explain it? It's more controlled
Mhm.
because it's my territory, my house, and I can tell them, this is my place. And if you're going to be here, you're going to have to behave, So it's kind of like I have that control there. Whereas elsewhere in a haunted location, I may not have that kind of control. We're usually coaching the homeowner or business owner on how to do that themselves. But yeah, every time we go in a haunted place, of course, I always pray before I do, but you always have
Mhm.
that risk of what's going to happen and what are we facing? Or is it just somebody, seeking attention?
Right, right. And I'm going to get back to a few of the questions right here. I just saw where, and I'm kind of skipping around briefly, but if I've skipped your question, I will get to it in a minute. Um, Northern Adventures says, do you know any specifics about the haunted items? For example, what is the oldest presence haunting any of your items?
Yeah, some of these I get, people are very vague, maybe because they couldn't find out enough about it. They had activity with it. They try to figure it out themselves. It could only get, well, it sounds like there's a little girl there. And she said her name is Tiffany or whatever, but they don't know how they died or, was this doll belonging to them. But some of these, like Patty, I get real specifics on it. And I love that because it helps with the investigation of the item. I know what questions to ask. Um, and some of them, which are kind of my favorite, really, are the ones that come. Let me back up and say some of these that have the vague stories, even I can't ever figure out because I barely get responses on the spirit box. Maybe the spirit just doesn't want to talk to anybody. Maybe wants to be left alone. So I just, okay. But I love the ones I get where the person doesn't know why it's haunted and I get it. And maybe the person that had it had no clue about, paranormal investigating or anything. And I switch on that spirit box and I start talking, and it's like it opens up uh, just this well of information. I'm going to turn this around here because this
Yeah.
painting here, see if you can see, yeah, right here.
Okay.
This is a Jenny Lind painting.
Oh.
Jenny Lind was an opera singer. Now, it's not Jenny haunting this, it's a woman named Hilda. In fact, she told me her full name was Hilda Michelson on the spirit box. She came from a store, was it San Diego or I think it was San Francisco,
Okay.
years ago. I was living in the old house I used to own when I got her, probably about 7 years ago, or about 8 years ago, actually. But the woman that sent it to me lived out there in California, and she bought it at the antique store. And she said when she was in the store shopping, the lady working there, it was a foreign lady, so her English was very choppy, but she rushed up to the lady and, was tapping her and said, and pointed to this painting and said, you buy this, you buy. And the lady's like, no, I'm not looking for a painting. You buy, you buy. The lady was just very persistent to please buy this item. So she did. She thought I could hang it in my dining room. And when she did, she claims that every time she looked at the painting, the face would be different.
Oh.
Sometimes she would be smiling in the painting, sometimes she'd be frowning. Excuse me. And she thought, well, maybe it's because it's like these old paintings. Maybe it's if you stare at it long enough, it's playing tricks on your eyes or something. And kind of like the eyes that follow you paintings,
Mm-hmm.
they're not really following you. And she thought maybe it's just me, it's the way it's painted. But then her company, who would visit her, would sit in the dining room and look at that painting and say, that face keeps changing every time I look at it.
Wow.
So she reached out to me on my Facebook page, and I paid for the shipping for her to send it. It was my first haunted painting. I had several dolls at the time, but when I got it here to the old house I was living in before I came here, um, the box was sitting out there. She FedExed it because she said, "Oh, I forgot this part of it." Her last straw. She claims, I haven't seen this happen, but she claims one night she was sitting at her dining table doing bills and looked up at the painting. And
Mm-hmm.
she swears that the lady in the painting suddenly turned her head straight and looked at her.
Oh my.
And she came up out of her chair, knocked it off the wall, and dragged it out of the house to her tool shed out back. And that's when she contacted me. She was trying to sell it on eBay as a haunted painting. She thought maybe some ghost hunter, goofy person might buy it. But then somebody told her about my Facebook and been watching my videos. So I said, yeah, send it here and, I'll pay. She said, if you want to just do the shipping, I just want to get rid of it. I can't even sell it. But back to when it first got here, this big box is outside my door, FedEx delivered. And I open, this is in the middle of hot summer, Alabama, 90 degrees outside. And that box has been sitting out there. And I bring it into the house and I cut it open, cut open the flap and I open it and this cold air blows out.
Wow.
And I'm like, not after sitting in that heat. There's something in this box. So I pull the pang out. It is cold. And I get the K2 meter out and hold it up, and it's setting off the K2 meter. Now, this is not electronic. It's not a cell phone or something. This is just a painting, cardboard and wood. And it's setting off the K2, like I'm holding it up to an outlet or something.
Yeah.
And so I hang her up and I said, I'm going to give it a few days and let her get settled in. Because I feel like there's a female with this painting and like an adult, not a child.
Okay.
But that first video I did with her with the spirit box, she was just talking. She was answering every question. I asked for her name. She said, Hilda. And this is on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And I said, what is your last name? Michelson. I said, what happened to her? I can't remember all the questions now. Oh, the big one where I got a full sentence. I said, how did you die? And she clearly says, you'd have to find my body through the spirit box.
Wow.
And the way she said it and the way I felt, it wasn't like this shady, like she's asking me, go find my body. I was murdered. No, it was more like I don't know. You'd have to find my body and figure it out.
Gotcha.
So I think maybe she died suddenly. Maybe she got sick off something, or if she was murdered, somebody attacked her and she didn't see it coming. But she was like, she didn't know. One minute she was alive, next second, boom, she's dead.
Wow.
So, but that was very detailed. And so a lot of times the spirit box helps me to find stuff out about them detail wise, especially the items that don't have stories with them. But the ones that come from families, what was the one? Oh, the Tammy doll from St. Louis. That came from her family.
Okay.
And also the Andrea doll came from that same city. Those came from the families of the little girls who owned them and could say, yeah, this is her name. This is what happened to her. And after that, here's the activity we had. And Andrea, since it happened in the 90s, Andrea, I can't remember I don't think I had a last name. I can't remember what it was, but Andrea was my second haunted doll. And the family that owned her said that their daughter, Andrea, the doll was given to her by her grandmother because it looked like her. And she was about 7 years old when she passed, or 8 years old when she passed away, swimming in the neighbor's pool. Her hair got caught in the drain at the bottom of the pool.
Oh.
And before anybody realized she was stuck down there, the kids and the adults that were playing, they dove for her, pulled her up, did CPR, but it was too late. She'd been down too long. And after that, they were hearing her in her bedroom and around that doll, basically. So they pinpointed it to the doll, and they gave it to my friend there in St. Louis that does some investigations back when she used to collect items, and she homed it with me.
Okay.
But she kept Andrea, the doll, for several months, testing it to make sure this was really Andrea, not some demon or something else. Mm-hmm. So Andrea, they told me she loved books. I know when I first got the doll, I would come home and find books lying on the floor, like a child had pulled it off the shelf and was laying on the floor reading it.
Okay.
And I got spirit box responses. She's a little sassy. I said, say your name for me. And you hear her say, I'm Andrea. Hello. It's like, my name is kind of how she said it. Hello.
So do a lot of them speak in like a similar voice? Like if you were to go and say have a conversation with Andrea tonight and you've not talked to her in a few months or whatever, if she was responding to you, do they end up speaking in the same voice on the spirit box, or is it more of just maybe like a female child voice that comes through?
It's I know Patty. I've had her come through, and hers is always the same. Andrea, the times, and I need to do some more spirit boxes with her because it's been a while since I've done it with her, but her voice sounded the same.
Okay.
The others, because there's so many of them, I have to ask them their names when I'm talking to them.
Of course. Yeah.
And sometimes they don't tell me because I think they're messing around with me. Let's tease him. He don't know who this is. But yeah, a lot of times I have to ask the names. In fact, my friend Cherie helped me figure out how to make these ID bands to put on the dolls.
Yeah.
Because you get too many of them, you start forgetting which spirit is with what doll.
I can only imagine with 300 or over 300 haunted items, how you could keep them all straight and how you could know who's coming through.
I did the wristbands, and then I've got a folder over there marked haunted items where it's like it's what do they call it, a mugshot book at the police department. It's like a mugshot book for haunted dolls.
Oh, wow.
It's got their picture, their name, and their little story in there. So I started doing that too to try to keep up with it, so I'd remember the stories and not just the names too, because sometimes I get those confused because there's so many of them.
Of course, and I do wanna just mention here, Northern Adventures says, "Forgive my ignorance, can you explain a spirit box and what its purpose is?"
Yeah, yeah, I can explain that. We get so caught up in there's so many TV shows and YouTube channels that show them. You assume people know what they are, but so yeah, it's not your ignorance. Um, it's like a little radio is the way I describe it. It's a little black box, or the classic ones were. Now you can use phone apps.
Yeah.
Just be careful you use one that's not, just a parlor game thing.
Mhm.
But it's a little device or a box that looks kind of like a radio with a speaker. Some of them do just FM and some do AM FM. But when you turn it on and start it, it's like a sweep, and it sweeps, what is it, like 5 radio stations per second?
Yeah, depending on your speed.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I usually like to crank mine up there a little bit, if not midway, at least higher, and not slow, because that way it cuts out when you're picking up the stations and blips of music or words come through. It cuts out, wondering if that 3 words you heard or that sentence is just
Mhm.
a radio commercial or a radio announcer talking. Because when it's flying through like that, you shouldn't be able to hear words,
Exactly.
and definitely not full sentences.
Exactly,
So
that's
I
what
like
we
it on the
always say.
yeah, the higher speeds, because then when you hear like Hilda, you'd have to find my body. That's not you haven't picked up on some strange radio show. This is a voice coming through using the static. But yeah, it makes this noise, this static. What do we used to call it? White noise.
Mhm.
And paranormal enthusiasts have believed a long time now that white noise can help us to hear spirits, with our ears where we normally can't. That
Mhm.
white noise creates some sort of a field. I've never been able to explain it scientifically, but it creates some sort of field they can speak through. It makes their voices audible. So, and I was skeptical about all that when I was younger and the spirit box, until I started getting some really interesting, direct answers to my questions. And I'm like, oh, this isn't just coincidence.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. You look at your situation, you look at what's going on around, and it sounds like you put your dolls through a pretty thorough investigation whenever you get them, or any of your items for that matter.
Yeah, I'm always doing that to make sure if somebody sends me something, what I do, and this might sound strange to people that don't know, have never collected items, but what I like to do every time I get a new item, I don't right away start investigating it. I try to give it a few days to settle in. I call it like like a house guest. I like to let them kind of get their bearings, and sometimes even maybe a week or two before I switch on the camera and the spirit box and try doing what I call one-on-one sessions with that item to see if I get any responses.
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to get it more active once they're settled down and they've been around me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. They know I'm not, some danger to them or trying to exploit them or whatever. It seems to get more activity and more responses from them. And some items I don't get anything from. Then I can only deduce that if there is anything with it, it's gone. It stayed where it came from, or it was not haunted. The person was just freaking themselves out.
Gotcha.
A lot of people don't like dolls, so they're just automatically scared of them, and they automatically then start tricking themselves into thinking that doll, I saw it blink, when it's just their mind playing tricks on them. But I try to do pretty thorough investigations to find out what I'm dealing with. And if I get a bad feeling from something, I'm going to pray over it before I do anything with it. And I've got holy water on hand. It's in my bag in there. And there's been a few I've had to spray holy water on, until I felt safer around it. And I try to find out everything I can about it before I, let it stay in my home. If something got really out of hand, I had one demonologist on speed dial, but he passed away a few years ago. But I have my friend Cherie.
Mm-hmm.
She's done a lot of blessings, so I can just send it to her, and she can deal with it if I can't get it under control. So I've always got a backup.
That's always a good thing to have. Ronnie says, which doll is the most haunted? I'm sure that's a challenging question.
Um, it's hard to say. Yeah, it is challenging because each one's given some different volume of activity. But I've got a was it earlier this? Yeah, I think it was earlier this year. So it shouldn't be too far down on my. No, it was late last year because I was still doing those live shows with that Normal Alabama, and we played it on there. So it was
Okay.
late last year. I got this Jack in the Box over here on one of my shelves, and when I was doing a video session with it, I have one of those light up moon balls you can buy in the store and online. It's got the remote, you can turn it on. And I had that sitting on the other end of the table along with some other, decoration type items, just something interesting for the background in the video. And also, it might be a trigger object. And in this case, it proved a good trigger object because while I'm talking to the Jack in the Box clown, he's got his little head stuck out there. And before I could even switch on the spirit box, I'm hearing a noise like right here at the edge of the room, like something tapped. And I thought my dad was coming in, so I paused the video to go around the corner and make sure, but he was still in his bedroom. So I come back and I get lined up where I was and unpause the video, and I'm explaining what just happened when that moon ball suddenly just pops up off its stand and goes falling to the floor. Not just a roll, but like a pop, like somebody had thumped it from underneath or,
Wow.
bumped it.
Okay.
And I'm glad I reacted because I started to freeze and I said, no. I got to show this thing. So I got up and walked around the table to it and showed the ball and picked it up, made sure to show that, hey, this is not a trick. This just happened. And there's no strings attached.
Wow.
So that was probably the heaviest activity. It's the first time on camera I've caught something moving. I've heard noises, but I've never had anything get knocked off a shelf or thrown off. I've heard something happen and then go in a room, the aftermath, seeing something laying on the floor, but I've never caught it on camera. I've never seen it actually happen. And that just blew me away for days. And sometimes when that happens, I kind of go a little quiet for a while. I'm like, I'm going to let things calm down before I do
Yeah.
another session in this house because I keep probing. It's going to handy it up possibly, and then I'm going to have stuff flying off the walls. Or, man, if this ever happens, I've seen some videos online where people hear a noise in the kitchen and go in, and all the drawers are open and the cabinets are open. And I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I'm surprised with everything you've got and as active as some of those dolls are from your videos. I'm surprised you don't have constant activity going on.
Yeah, and a lot of times people have said this to me. They say you must have, excuse me, you must have a really positive aura about you because a lot of these
Mhm.
items will be active in the places they come from,
Mhm.
and they'll come here and they might be active for a few weeks and then it calms down.
Mhm.
And somebody told me just last year, they said you must have a calming effect on them.
I can
Maybe they
see
just
that.
like being in your presence or something because it tends to calm down after a while. Um, Well, I will tell you though who the most haunted dolls are. I can't believe this didn't pop in my head first off, but I have these two witch dolls, Anne and Alice. I call
Okay.
them witch dolls because this witch once owned them back in the 80s in Shropshire, England.
Oh, wow.
And she tried to use these dolls. I mean, she was a scary woman. The people in her neighborhood didn't want anything to do with her. They were scared of her. And at night they would, hear noises from her house, like she was uh, banging stuff around or whatever. And one night they heard a scream coming from her house. It was her scream, but they were too chicken to go over there. So the next day, a few of the neighbors went over to her house to knock, and the door was unlocked. So they went on in to check on her, and they said that house was a mess. She was a clutter bug. She had piles of junk, pack rat kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And they wandered around the house until they went in this room. They call it her ceremony room, apparently, because when they go in, there's an altar. There's all these symbols drawn on the walls. And on the floor, there's this big pentagram, like something you'd see in a horror movie. But to their horror, there's her body laying there.
Wow.
And Anne and Alice, their dolls, were in that room at the time. And I don't know how they found this out. I'm like, if she was dead, how do they know this? But the investigator that got the dolls is the same lady. I can't think of her name now, but she's the same lady that owns that famous Peggy doll that's been on
Okay.
Travel Channel a little bit. She claims if you look at it in the eyes, it might drive you crazy or make you sick.
Okay.
But it's the same investigator had Ann and Alice, and she claims that the lady was apparently trying to use them as revenge dolls because of the symbols that are written on their backs and
Okay.
the way their faces are painted up. So I guess she's assuming just by that the woman must have been trying to use them as revenge dolls. But the coroner's report later was what was interesting. They said she died of fright. So she
Oh,
must have conjured something up that she didn't like or didn't agree with her.
okay.
But I don't think it was these dolls that did it. They just happened to be there. But um, apparently she tried to use them as revenge dolls and it didn't work because the dolls were haunted and she didn't know that by Anne and Alice. But she had painted the faces up to make them look scary and all this stuff. So when the investigator got them, she said that just chaos would happen in her house with electricity. They
Okay.
love the K2 meter, so I always have that out with them for sure. They like light up electronics, but they like to make the lights, go crazy. So I noticed after I got them uh, back about 6 years ago. Well, the cute thing was first I did a spirit box with them, and I could hear these little girls talking, and it's on my YouTube channel. And my cat Maddie comes running through the room, scampering around, and she knocks over something. And I said that just to mark it on the recording, so when I play it back, I know what it was. I say that's my cat Maddie. She knocked something over. Mark
Mhm.
that. Right behind that, I hear a little girl's voice on the spirit box, British accent and everything. She goes, "Look what you did, you cunt."
Wow. Wow.
And I said, "Yeah, these dolls are haunted. I believe it now." And
Wow.
then I found out that what she was telling us about the electric issues that Ann and Alice like to cause, that happened to me. I had a little party at my house with my paranormal team and some other guests. And during the night or during that whole evening, stuff just kept happening that never happened before. I had gotten Ann and Alice. The
Okay.
lights in one half of the house, the electricity just went off. And as soon as we got that fixed at the fuse box, the other side of the house went out. So as soon as I get that fixed, the TV goes on the fritz. And I said, these recent dolls I got play with electricity, supposedly. Maybe it's them. And one of the ladies that was there, her husband, he's an electrician. Oh, come on now. I can go find this problem. He went, checked the wiring, the fuse box. He went just everything. And he could not find what was causing the problem.
Is
And it
that them
wasn't,
there?
yeah, there's Ann and Alice.
Okay. Wow.
They look pretty freaky. They scare people when people first see them. And I
Wow.
checked under their dresses on their backs. They do have these weird words written on their backsides in marker.
Uh-huh.
So I guess the story about the witch is actually true. I couldn't hear if the audio was on there or not.
It's not.
It's not.
I had it turned off because I didn't know which parts of the video
I,
that.
yeah, this one was one of the later ones I did. So I don't even think I had any EVPs. It was mainly K2 on this video that I had captured.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the K2 sitting there. Um, wow, that's fascinating when you're able to even get the accent in with that, because obviously you're not going to be capturing that through just a normal everyday radio.
Yeah.
At least not in down in Southern Alabama.
I mean, it was perfect. The way she said cat, she said cot. Look at you, did you cot?
I love it. Um, so let's see, I'm looking here at the questions. Nancy says, have you ever had more than one at a time respond?
Oh, yeah. I've had them where I'm trying to, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, as the collection has grown,
Mhm.
it's gotten more difficult with the one-on-one sessions because as I'm trying to focus on a particular item and ask questions, yeah, all these other voices come in. It's like a paranormal party.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
Eh,
and they'll sometimes they'll talk over and I have to tell them, look, hey, back off. I'm talking to so and so. Let's let them answer the question. But sometimes it's helpful if I have a item that's supposed to have a tiny little spirit, like a 3-year-old child, or even a little toddler like that. Sometimes it helps for one of the adult spirits to answer for them. And
that
I have
makes
had
sense.
success with that before. But yeah, I've had them, especially some of the pranksters. I have Lucian that hunts a clown doll, and he likes to make a little special appearance sometimes vocally in my sessions. And I can tell it's him when he does his goofy guy voice. And I'll be like, Lucian, come on now.
I love your spirit and I love your aura. I love when you can see your passion, and I love when you're telling your stories about these, just how lighthearted you are about it, so I can understand why the spirits that are connected with these dolls feel that calming presence when they're in your location. I love that.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I do. It's kind of like Southern hospitality. I try to make them feel at home when they come here, but I always set rules. I'm like, if you're going to be here, and I always say it up front, this is my house. I ask that you can just be yourself. Just don't do anything to scare people. Although I'd love to, see you and hear from you. I'm not saying, do that, but just please behave and be respectful. And I'm going to respect you. And we're not going to have a lot of people in here touching your items. So you don't have to worry about that. I think the only worst thing I've done is I forget to dust sometimes. And I wonder, are they going to slap me awake in my sleep if I don't dust their dolls?
That's probably a week job to do, or a full weekend job with all those items.
Yeah, and what's funny, oh, here's some good stories if we got time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We do have a cleaning crew. I'm not rich or anything, but we do have a cleaning crew with, especially my dad living here, and we go in together on the cost. But we use the maids, which is a service
Mhm.
here
Okay.
in Alabama, and I was afraid of getting them to come in here and clean with these haunted items, but they love it. In fact, the manager of the maids, our local branch here, came out to one of our public investigations with Scare, and she was telling me stories about when I would be gone from work and the ladies would come and clean. One of them had seen this antique rocking chair I have. It's not haunted, but it's over here with one of the dolls sitting in it, and she swore it rocked while she was over there cleaning around it. They won't touch the dolls. They'll clean, in this particular room, they'll clean around, vacuum, but they will not touch the dolls. And I told them, hey, that's fine. That's probably the best thing. Don't touch them.
Right.
But the manager told me that this is the most awesome story they've told me so far. One day while I was going to work, and they came during the day, and they go to unlock the door. The girl, in front of the group goes to unlock the door, and she goes to open it, and it won't open. It starts to, but it stops.
Okay.
And she says it was like somebody or multiple people were on the other side pushing to keep her from opening it.
Oh,
And all
no.
of a sudden, and all of them heard it, you hear this man's voice inside say, "Let them in." And suddenly the door comes open, and they're standing there just looking. And they're like, one of them called in, "Mr. Cain, are you home?" So I thought it was me. And I was like, no, I was at work then, and nobody, I was still living on my own then. There was nobody living there with me. So, yeah, I thought that was fantastic. I said, they still went in and clean? She's like, yeah, we're always a professional, even if there's ghosts. We're going to,
I love it.
but every time they get a new team member, they sort of initiate that team member when they come here. Now, this is Mr. Kane's house. He's got all these dolls. Don't touch them because, they might be spooky and they might
Oh,
say something.
you've got a reputation now with the maid service.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long before the Birmingham News sent a reporter out and
Wow.
interviewed me, and then WBRC 6 came out and did a little video segment in my house one Halloween back around 2015, I think it was. I had a link for that on my website, but I don't know if it's still working. They might have taken that down since it's been a while. But yeah, I've had people, in fact, after your post today, another lady contacted me on my messenger today, wanted to interview me on her show.
Oh, nice.
So, so yeah, I'm getting a lot of,
A lot of interest in that.
yeah. And I noticed finally for a while there during COVID, when I wasn't doing anything but just my own investigations here, my book sales dropped. All of a
Mm.
sudden this year, they have gone up. And a lot of
Okay.
people, especially that particular book, My Haunted Collection, The Dark Side, it's got the
Okay.
scarier stories in it.
Mhm.
That's been just really doing good this year all of a sudden.
And we'll pull those up here in just a few minutes. I want to get to a few more of these questions because I know I bought your book, Tammy Baby, there when I met you, and great book. And so,
Thank you.
I'm absolutely, absolutely. So I definitely recommend. We've pulled up the YouTube channel, put the link on there. So folks, definitely go subscribe and like Kevin's channel, especially if you want to watch more of his sessions with these haunted dolls. There's a lot of videos that you can catch up on. But I wanted to, like I said, get to just a couple more of the questions here. And again, if you guys have any questions, please just feel free to put them over here. Janet says, what advice do you have for people who want to purchase a haunted doll but don't know where to start?
I've always said if you have not, my recommendation is that before you do collect a haunted item is to learn first about paranormal investigating itself. Because when you get a haunted item, that's something, if you decide to do, and it's not for everybody, but you have to realize if you do that, you're bringing that into your home. And we're all the time warning people, like Kim, she'll tell people, um, don't do spirit boxes in your own home because you're inviting spirits in. Of course, people point over at me and laugh. She's like, well, Kevin's a professional. He can do all he wants to, but y'all don't do it. But it is basically you're inviting a spirit into your house when you do it. So, and the more you get, the more spirits are going to be coming and going. So I would absolutely familiarize yourself with paranormal investigating first. If you're not already with a paranormal team, small one or a big one, doesn't matter. Just, around people that know what they're doing, who you can learn from, and how to use devices and how to protect yourself, even more importantly. I'm from a Christian background, so my protection is always prayer and faith in God, and it's worked so far and kept me protected. And so you definitely want to make sure you're protecting yourself with something, be it holy water, or a lot of people use sage for protection or incense to, keep everything positive. Me, it's mainly just prayer and faith in God for protection, faith in Christ. But so definitely make sure you know what you're doing and that you know how to protect yourself first before you start doing it. And when you do, be careful where you get the item, because one of mine back here had a nasty entity with it. I think it was a demonic. And the lady in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who owned it, had purchased it on eBay from a lady claiming to be a white witch, a positive witch, and swore up and down that Lori, the doll, was a protective spirit who'll take care of you and bring you good health and fortune, blah, blah, blah. And this girl said, oh, I want to try that. I've never had a haunted doll before. So she bought it. And 2 weeks after it arrived, she started having violent nightmares. Both she and her roommate were having the same nightmares, waking up with scratches on the same parts of their bodies, though they were sleeping in totally separate rooms in the house they were sharing. They were hearing weird noises. They kept seeing what they described as this inky black mass figure in their hallway. Sometimes it would be in their dreams. Sometimes they would catch sight of it in real life, in their hallway. So somebody, a mutual friend of mine, told her about me, and she contacted me, and she didn't want anything. She didn't want money, nothing. That's when they're telling the truth.
Right.
She's like, I don't want, people say, I'll give it to you for $1,000. Take it. It's scaring me. If it was scaring you that bad, you'd hand it over to the next person down the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, I don't want anything. And, I gave her the shipping address, and like overnight, she shipped that thing, paid all that money just to get it the hell out of her house.
Wow.
And when it got here, I knew it was negative because my cat is very sensitive. And when I get a package, she's got to climb up there next to me on the counter and watch me open it and sniff at it. When I brought that box in with Lori doll, that cat tore out of that room, went into my bedroom, and hid under the bed. I said, yeah, something's wrong. And I started feeling, at the same time, I was feeling like I want to throw up.
Okay.
So I said, this is demonic. And I had a case for just such an emergency, an empty doll case. If I ever got something like that, I could put it in there and seal it up. So I prayed over that sucker. I was spraying it with holy water. And the crucifix, I had a blessed crucifix that I was wearing while I was doing the praying. And I felt a tug, and that thing snapped from the back of my neck like something had yanked it out of anger, and it fell to the floor. And that split second, I'd give God the glory for this. The split second, I heard in my head, don't react, because if you get scared, it's going to feed off it. So I held my composure, and I knelt down and picked up that crucifix, and I put it on the doll, and I splashed that holy water. And I did that until my nausea went away and my cat came back in the room. I said, okay, yeah, whatever was here is gone now.
Wow.
So I sealed up the Lori doll with water, holy water, in that case back there. I can point her out back here. right there on the top shelf in that case right there. It looks like she got a green dress on.
Yeah.
And she's this beautiful, unsuspecting doll, but what she had attached to her was ugly and rotten.
Wow.
And man, but whatever it was never came back. But one of my friends on our team was here, and he does not like dolls. But when he saw Lori, he was like he went into a trance. And he turned
Oh,
around to me, and his eyes were like wobbling. He goes, "Can I have her? I gotta take her home. Please let me take her home. Kevin, I gotta take her home." I said, "Darius, let's carry you out of here because I think she's having an effect on you, and you don't need to be looking at her anymore." And I get him out of the room, and he's back to normal. Like, "Hey, what's going on?"
did he remember?
He remembered what happened. He just can't believe he was asking to take that doll with him. He was like, "What's going on? What did I say?"
Well, have you noticed, you kinda hit an interesting point there about the fact of bringing these dolls in, and that's great advice for anybody that does kind of have an urge to purchase one or an interest in dolls. Have you noticed that by bringing in these dolls that your home has become sort of attractive to other spirits, maybe potential passer or traveler spirits? Have you noticed that you've had more of that that's maybe not attached to the doll, but they know that you're someone who does communicate and does listen and has, I guess, essentially invited spirits in through the dolls? Have you noticed anything outside that's come in that's maybe passed through?
Yeah, I've had them come through on the spirit box when I'm especially before I had this big collection. When I only had like 7 or 8 dolls, so I had it narrowed down and knew who was who.
Mhm.
I would get spirits just coming through, just talking, and then recently, this is before we went live on the show. I was telling you about the It's Alive puppet
Yes.
from the 1974 movie It's Alive.
That's awesome. That is
That's
so
one of the
cool.
actual. He's kind of in rough shape, but that's one of the actual puppets they used in the movie. You see his finger is cracked and everything now. That was not given to me as a haunted item. It was just, sometimes I like collecting movie memorabilia,
Mhm.
and especially if it's one of my favorite movies, or like in this case, a movie that affected me as a kid. It scared the crap out of me. But then later I got to enjoy it for its campiness, and to when this guy put it up for sale, and I was like, dang, this is a once in a lifetime chance to have an actual prop from a movie that have actually been a fan of.
Mhm.
So I bought it and got it here just for YouTube for the videos. I said, I'm gonna have to do a video with this doll, and let's do a spirit box, and maybe it might be haunted. Well, apparently it is, because I was getting some feedback on the spirit box from Mel Voice. I think he said his name. I think he told me his name was Larry, which the director of the movie was Larry Cohen, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I got it right, yeah, I think it's Larry Cohen. But then I said, "Are there any spirits from Hollywood visiting since I have this item?" And I got a yes. I said, "How many?" 30. I said 30. So I started asking for some names because I'm thinking I got celebrities here, but I never did get any names. I was hoping, Marilyn Monroe was here.
Right, right.
But I guess the spirit of the director came through. But as for the item itself, I don't think I still don't think it's haunted. I haven't seen it do anything, and the guy didn't
Mhm.
advertise it as a haunted item, just a piece of movie memorabilia for collectors. And but yeah, getting back to that question, I sidetrack a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
But getting back to that question, yeah, I've had them come through like that where and I'll say, who am I talking to? And they'll say their name. And I don't recognize it as being one of the items. Of course,
Mhm.
now it's more difficult with 300 something items, but
Wow.
um, just by, from where they're coming from, like if they're speaking in a foreign accent, or,
Mhm.
well, not the British girls, of course, but like a foreign language.
Mhm.
None of the spirits I have are supposed to be, you know, non-English speaking spirits. So I wonder where they're
Gotcha.
coming from, and are they just passing through? And some of them will tell me, like at that other property I used to live on, I had one come through. I think he said it was a farmer. Just, in fact, he said just passing through on the spirit box.
Oh, wow.
And
Well,
we did in that area have a lot of farm country before they started building houses in suburbs out there. It used to be not only some farm country and woods, but there were a lot of Civil War camps out there. I don't think we had any battles in Shelby County here, but they camped here, passed through here
okay.
a lot. Sometimes I would get somebody coming through sounding like a soldier talking because of the way they were saying, saddle up or cavalry or something, things they would say
Mhm.
that sounded
Mhm.
like Civil War talk. So I wondered if one of the soldiers was passing through that might have been there. Gosh, how long has it been? 150 something years ago.
Yeah. Well, you know what it makes me wonder, so if a spirit is attached to a haunted item because it was something that belonged to them and it's brought into your location with all these other haunted items, do you believe that it's possible that, say it is the spirit of a little girl, of, Lori or Tammy or Peggy or one of those, is it possible, do you believe, that if they were to see another doll that they liked, that they could essentially, I don't wanna say jump to that other item, but become attached to the other item because maybe they like that as well or better than the item they're already attached to?
As far as I know, I hadn't had that happen yet, and as far as mine, but I don't think, I mean, I don't see how that wouldn't be possible. They definitely can do that. Um, in fact, just recently, a lady in Hawaii that I was talking to, it was my last doll video I did on YouTube. Yeah, last week. It was the last YouTube video I did before the little short one I did today. But
Mhm.
she sent me a doll from all the way over in Hawaii, and she said that at her house there were some negative spirits there that were causing problems for these. There's a female spirit and a little girl spirit, Adelaide and Emma. And I don't know if I think they used to have a doll there. They didn't have it anymore. So she
Okay.
said, I'm going to send you a doll because I need them to leave the house here. She said, I don't think they're safe here. So I said, I've never done a long distance. I have, with Spirit Box, I've actually talked a spirit or two into the light before and helped them to cross over.
Okay.
But I've never tried to transfer, a spirit to a doll or, try to welcome them to attach to a different doll or whatever. And apparently it worked because while she was praying in Hawaii, I guess it was last Wednesday night, I was here with the spirit box on and filming, and I was talking to Emma and Adelaide and just trying to concentrate on them. And while staring at that doll she had sent, I was like, Miss Susan wants you to come to this doll. And Susan had told me prior to that she had let the spirits know, hey, you need to go live with my friend Kevin. And she's
Mhm.
psychic. She told me that they had already been here visiting, but that they wanted a new doll. So she sent that doll here, and I talked. And as I was talking, I could hear a little girl, like a little 3-year-old girl, the way she described Emma, talking on the spirit box. And at first she was upset, and I was telling her, no, calm down. You can come here and stay. You're more than welcome. Don't go back to Susan's and be around those, nasty spirits there. So um, I just kept focusing on the doll and talking to it. And then I used the dowsing rods, and they started moving when I was asking, are you here with the doll now? And it was
Okay.
crossing for yes and uncrossing. And I was getting, the responses loud and clear on the spirit box. So, and since then, this little doll sitting right behind me here, what was it, last Friday night? I was sitting here and I felt what felt like a little tiny child slide up on the sofa next to me. And I said,
Wow.
Emma, is that you? And I said, hey, Emma, if that's you. And Susan's been telling me, yeah, she said they're there. And meanwhile, at her house, whatever that nasty entity was, she's got it trapped in a jar of salt in her
Wow.
house. So I've never done anything long distance like that before. I thought, I don't see how this is going to work, but I did it and
Mhm.
it succeeded. But again, the spirits are not stuck with these items. They can still come and go all they want to. It just seemed like
Mhm.
those spirits needed a little more guidance to get away from whatever was bothering them at Susan's house. And now
Gotcha.
she's able to contain that. And she said she's been getting a lot of cussing from the spirit box
Oh, wow.
from
Yeah,
this
which
thing.
would not be just a normal radio station.
Yeah, yeah. We've had some funny cussing before. I haven't had a bad entity come through and cuss me out. Although one of
Mhm.
our lady team members had gotten called a B word from the spirit box one time,
Oh,
and it
wow.
wasn't very friendly. But I've heard some cussing, like this old lady in a house I was investigating in Talladega. It was an older spirit, and the window in the attic kept breaking, and they would replace it, and it would break again. So when I was in the attic, I asked her on the spirit box, "Why?" I said, "Is this a ghost causing this window to break?"
Mhm.
Yeah. I said, "Well, who's
Oh.
breaking it?" She says, "That hole."
Oh, wow.
And then And then in the background, I heard a male voice, and they had told me they had seen, or they thought they'd seen a man in the attic one time. But when they went in to look, whoever it was gone. So apparently the old woman was tattletelling on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but she said that a-hole.
But that's fascinating and fascinating story about the transfer of the spirit to the doll. I know Sonia makes a really good comment here. She said, "I think it's amazing that you've taken on so many. It's kind of like you've adopted them and given them a good, safe home."
Oh, thank you. And in fact, and this just melts my heart every time. I've had a lot of times especially with the little girl spirits, I hear them call me daddy on the spirit
Oh.
box. So they see me as sort of their spirit dad. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I would say not. And let's talk a little bit about your book. So I'm going to pull this up here
Okay.
on the screen. Like I said, I have Tammy Baby, and that was a fascinating book. I can't wait to see you again in person and get a couple more of your books.
Oh,
But
thank you.
but I'm also going to put the link. And so if you want to talk a few minutes about some of your books, please feel free. I'm going to share the link here so that people can easily access that.
Yeah, well, right there is my first haunted doll book, My Haunted Collection. And that tells about the stories about several of the original items I collected. In fact, on the cover of that book is an actual doll from the island of the dolls in Mexico that I actually have back here in my collection.
Oh, wow.
And that was back Don Julio, I think, or Don Julio, I think was the name of the guy that was a caretaker on that island. He had passed away. He had gotten sick. I think he's since passed away, but his nephew took over the caretaking duties. And Mr. Nephew took some of the dolls off the island.
Ooh.
I think it was, his mind, he probably didn't believe the ghost tales. And
Mhm.
he was trying to clean up, I guess, is what he thought he was doing. And he brought a box full of those dolls home, and his wife just chewed him out, said he could not bring them in the house. So one of my collector friends, Myra, she is a friend of his, and she was like, she jumped on that bandwagon. She said, "Out of the dolls, I gotta have some of these. I'll buy them from you." So she did, and she got several of them. I love it because she took before pictures when she got them, so you could see how dirty they were.
Oh, yeah.
And then she cleaned them up herself, so that after they're just beautiful, like this doll here, Harold. Not to be confused with the famous Harold, the haunted doll on YouTube. This is a different one.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
Harold was a mess, but she cleaned him up beautifully. And he's actually wearing the baby gown that the real baby Harold wore when he was alive. He died in a fire as an infant.
Oh.
And apparently, relatives of the the mother and baby who died in the fire took that doll as one of the mother's dolls and that baby gown down to the island of the dolls and donated it, in their memory back, it was a long time ago, back in the 60s or whenever. But people have reported crying, a baby crying coming from that doll. And I did get a video when I heard a baby crying in my old house, and that's out there as one of my YouTube videos. So I think there is some truth to that story. But so I actually have an Island of the Doll baby back there,
Oh,
and his story is in that book if you want to read more about it. And the story of Hilda, the haunted painting I mentioned earlier, she's in there, and Patty Doll, Tammy, Andrea, all original, the first group of dolls I collected, haunted items. And then I wrote a novel, Patty Doll, based on Patty's story. Um, and that's like Tammy Baby. It's based on the real doll and the real what happened to them, but then I create a fictional story. So the whole book is not real,
gotcha.
but Patty's true story is in there.
Okay.
And some of the hauntings I've had from the doll, I incorporated into the story and then just fictionalized it. And that's how I did with Tammy Baby, with Tammy and her mean stepsisters. That actually happened, but then the years later thing,
Mhm.
the rest of the book, I made that up, and I sort of did that for Tammy, so I could give her a little revenge against her mean stepsisters, wherever they are, if they're still alive. I don't know. But that was such a sad story when my friend up in St. Louis, same lady that got me Andrea, got me Tammy, and
Okay.
she told me that story. That broke my heart.
Well, and that's the thing that I notice about this, and I don't know if it's mostly because it involves kids, but it's just the stories are just so heart-wrenching and just they just seem so horribly tragic.
Yeah, and with Tammy, her story too. That was Andrea. I was able to actually find an article about just a little snippet in one of the St. Louis newspapers about her drowning. So I was able to find something solid on her
Oh,
story,
nice.
which is really cool when you can find that.
Do you find that often with some of
No,
your
it's hard because you never know when the name has been changed or if the person that's telling you the story didn't elaborate. Maybe somebody lied to them about it, or you never know. Storytelling in the South,
Mhm. Yeah, very true.
but with Andrea, that I was able to find a little article on her drowning in that pool, and that was really cool. And Tammy, it was so long ago, early '70s, I think, that we didn't have internet yet.
Mhm.
So you'd probably have to go to archives in St. Louis to find something like that, and God knows how long it might take, or
Yeah.
it's just going to take some heavy research. But just the activity and the EVPs I've gotten from her, I feel like that kind of lets me know enough that yeah, there really is a Tammy and something bad happened to her in the bathroom. The
Mhm.
story was that her stepsisters were drawing her bath one night while they were supposed to be babysitting her,
Mhm.
and they just trying to pick on her and bully her. They were dunking her in the tub. They called it "dunk the brat," but
Wow.
they dunked her for too long and accidentally drowned her.
Mm.
And trying to just because they were stupid kids trying to hide what happened, they dried her body off, put her in her pajamas, and stuck her in bed. That's what actually happened. The book, I tell it differently to get into the fictional part, but in real
Sure.
life, they put her body in the bed in her pajamas, thinking, "Oh, mom and dad just think she's sleeping," but that's not going to last long.
Yeah.
And the parents didn't know she was dead till the next morning when the mama went to wake her up, and that's when they found out what really happened.
Wow.
So that was just to me. Not only was it gross, just knowing what they did,
Yeah.
but it's just sad. So I said,
Yeah.
my next book, I'm gonna write Tammy's story, and I'm gonna give her some revenge.
I love it. I love that. And I gotta say, I know whenever I stopped by your table there when, I met you there at Abnormal, Alabama, those dolls, I know I bent down and I was kind of looking at them at eye level on the table, and there was you could feel the vibe. I mean, there was I don't know which one it was, but one of them. And I don't normally get creeped out with dolls or clowns or anything like that, but there was something there that had a vibe to it that, and I'm not talking about dark or anything like that. Just you just felt a presence right there.
Kind of like while you're looking at them, you can feel somebody looking back at you.
Yes, I think that's what it was. Is I was looking at it face to face, and it just felt like it truly felt like there was somebody there looking back.
Yeah, and I get that a lot too, and that's why the yeah, I had her there, the Amelia doll with the kind of neon green eyes.
Yes,
She's
yes.
already so creepy looking that I bought one of those doll stands that turns. So I put her on that. She was turning and looking at everybody, and I just get a laugh out of that because people tell me that doll's looking at me again.
I bet you have some great stories and some great things just from the events like that whenever people come up, because it seems like most people are kind of have a phobia or a little bit uneasy around haunted dolls.
Yeah, and they tend to. I've had people come to me and tell me, after I met you and talked to your dolls last night, we had stuff moving in the hotel room and this and that. In fact, in fact, Kim Johnston, we did one of those together. Well, she was at that one too, but
She was.
before that, we did Alabama Phoenix when they used to have that convention here in Birmingham, and they stopped doing it. But one of their, well, it might have been their last one. They had me there finally after I'd published some books, and they let me come and sell my books, and I brought some of the dolls. And even though it was downtown, just because I didn't want to drive back and forth, I said, I'm going to relax and just take a hotel room there. That way, all I got to do is walk upstairs and go to bed
Hmm.
and not drive back and forth half an hour to home and just make a weekend of it.
Hmm.
So I didn't have any activity in my room when I took the dolls up there. I had Patty and Tammy and Andrea. But the next morning I come down and Kim told me that when she went to go to her room, that they swiped the card, and this is just like what the maids told me happened to them. She swiped her card and it unlocked, and she went to open the door. It was like somebody on the other side was pushing and wouldn't let her open it. And I guess she had her daughter, her little daughter River was with her, and they were pushing on the door. They couldn't get it open, and they finally called a guy at the desk to come up and help because she thought maybe, you know, like we tend to do an investigation, she's trying to think skeptically, like, oh, the door's
Sure.
broken. She wasn't thinking ghost
Uh-huh.
until the guy came up there and he swiped the card and opened it up with ease. And she came down there and told me that next morning, I think your little girls followed me up there and were playing with me. So sometimes I get stuff, I get stories from people like that. And then some people just kind of show up and clown around. Ooh, touch the doll. I dare you to touch the doll.
Ooh,
Teasing each other, drag their little sister up or something. And, I just try not to pay any attention to it as long as they're not touching anything.
right.
And
So, well, speaking on events and stuff, any events coming up that you can talk about where people can come and hear you speak or come and see your haunted dolls in person?
yeah, the definite thing scheduled and set and everything is going to be the Deep South Paranormal. What's it called? Deep South
Paracomicon.
Paracomic-Con. I
Yes.
don't know why I have trouble with that. Deep South Paranormal Comic Con. But they have me on there. They kind of shuffled me into the vendor list, but I'm out there on the website. And I'm going to be there just that Saturday, which might be why I'm on the vendor list. But I'm going to be there that Saturday selling my books, and I will have some haunted dolls there. And that's in Ozark, Alabama. And I'll be there, I guess. I'll try to be there. I guess they start at 10. I'm going to try to at least get through to 5 o'clock before I'll have to pack up, drive back. It's 3 hour drive almost to my house here.
Yes,
So yeah,
and
there it is. That's their yes, their Facebook page.
yes, and definitely folks want to go and check that out. A lot of people got some people who are in the audience that's going to be down there, and that was down there at last year's. I did last year's, such a great, phenomenal event, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in person on that one. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that link right quick and put that in the comments here. That is, let's see, that is August. Let me see here. Why am I missing the date on that? Is it it's the third week of August, right? Or the
Yeah,
second week?
I know that Saturday's August 19th.
August 19th,
So the
yes.
19th and the 20th.
Yes. So I know they've got a full schedule, so definitely want to come out on that Saturday and see Kevin. I'm not sure yet when I'm going to be speaking, but I know that I'll be there all weekend long. Looking forward to getting down there and checking that out. And I know that Sonia Thompson from The Walking Dead is going to be there as well. David Childers. It's going to be a packed out event, I believe, just from what I've seen. And I see they're constantly adding new people to it as well.
Yeah, I've got to go back and look because I haven't looked lately to see who else they've added. I
Yeah,
know Blaine Rohan, who works with our team a lot, is going to be there. And there's some, can't remember exactly who, but there's some people from the Travel Channel shows who will be there.
yeah,
Now, I did see
yes,
Walking Dead Sonya, I called her. I did see her
yes,
listed
yes.
on there.
Yeah, so there's going to be some great people. Folks definitely want to check that out. And again, let's go ahead and plug your books where people can find your books, and we'll pull up your website here as well.
Yes, you can go. And now all of my books are, everything I published is out there on my website, myhaunteddolls.com. So you can just go out there and buy an autographed copy today. And just for giggles, I even put an 8x10 picture of me and Patty out there. I said, I wonder if I could sell autographed photos, and people have actually bought them.
Oh, wow.
But I sell them cheap. I'm not no snotty celebrity that wants $100 for an autograph. So they're cheap. But I have those. I have some baseball caps with my haunted dolls on. I got some coffee mugs, and I even have bumper stickers and car plate tags with the My Haunted Dolls on it. I've got them on my car so I can get strange looks when I go to church and park in the parking lot.
I love it. Like I said, I just love your sense of humor, and I love talking to you about this stuff, and cannot wait to see you again when we go down there. So, guys, definitely go check out Kevin's page here, My Haunted Dolls, also on his YouTube channel. I'm gonna pull that up right quick, and
Yeah. And there's a
definitely.
link on the website. And also, I didn't even mention my podcast I do every couple of weeks called the Haunted Collection, where I tell my favorite scary stories. And that's on Podbeam and Amazon and Audible.
Okay, perfect. And I think, let's see, your um, does your YouTube channel have? Oh no, your website has a link to all of that, correct?
Yeah. The
Okay.
YouTube one is kind of easy. It's youtube.com
Hmm.
/C as in cat. I don't know why there's a little C in there, but it's youtube.com /C my haunted dolls.
Okay.
So it's
And
kind of easy.
yeah, and it's easy if folks just go and do My Haunted Dolls and hit the channel. So
Yeah.
hit the channel filter on there. So definitely go check that out. Binge watch some of his videos because he's got a lot on there. And you release videos what, weekly, as far as with your sessions with your dolls?
Now I do. For a little while, my dad had surgery last year on one of his knees. So for a while there, I was only doing it um, sometimes monthly because I just didn't have a lot of time. And then
Mhm.
before that, I was doing weekly live shows with Abnormal Alabama. So that kind of
Mhm.
took my focus off doing the one on one. So I'd only do them every 2 or 3 weeks. But now I'm back to doing them weekly,
Okay.
and I did that one last Wednesday, so I should be getting one done with one of the dolls this Saturday night, hopefully with the new camera. Gonna try that out and see if I can. I like that because it frees up. I use my smartphone a lot to video and use the apps.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is I don't know if that's what's setting off the K2 meter when it's flashing.
Yeah.
So I want to try to use this too and see if I can still get,
Mm-hmm.
kind of eliminate the cell phone interference when I do the K2 stuff.
I love that. I love that you're doing that and trying to really control your environment.
Yeah. Because I try to go into it skeptical too. If I see something happening, I want to first see, am I doing something or is something causing this? Now, with that moon ball popping off the stand, that was a whole different thing because I wasn't touching anything. My cat was over here
Mm-hmm.
and nobody else was in here. So I had no explanation for that.
Now, whenever you do your weekly videos, do you just pick a doll, or do people sometimes write in and say, "Hey, do a session with, with Tammy or with one of the dolls"?
I have had that. I've had people, especially with Anne and Alice, ever since their uh, you cut, ever since that spirit box thing. People love them. I've had multiple requests for them, so I've done them. This last one I did 2 weeks ago out there, it went kind of haywire. I lost 10 minutes of footage on my
Wow,
phone. It showed it there to click on. You click on it, and it said it was corroded. I
of
said, I've
course.
never seen anything like this on my smartphone. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah.
And I
Huh.
tried to download it, it wouldn't download, and there was just nothing there. So I had to turn the camera back on and, at the end of the video say, I'm sorry, I lost 10 minutes of
Wow.
spirit box footage. And during that time, I had activity, but they were telling me they didn't want to talk. I have this, I like to try to do trigger objects. So I had one of those
Mhm.
Simon games that lights up
Yeah.
that you can buy at Walmart.
Uh-huh.
And it was going haywire. It was just flashing and not even making any noises. And
Wow.
there were voices coming through the spirit box app that I had on the phone. The little girl sounded like she was going, like she was upset. There was a
Oh,
noise over here in the dining area. I had to go up and go over there and look, see what that was. And then, so I finally ended it and it disappeared. 10 minutes worth of awesome footage.
they're telling you they didn't want to talk.
They didn't want to talk. So now I had somebody write in behind that say, well, we need Ann and Alice part two. Follow up on that. I'm like, I don't want to.
Right?
I don't want to stir them up again. If they're ticked at me for some reason, I don't want to. I think they just like to be left alone, and they're kind of like my cat. They'll do it when they're ready. They'll provide the entertainment when they feel like it.
Right,
Like
right.
my cat, I'll climb in your lap when I want to.
Otherwise, just leave me alone.
Yeah,
Well, Kevin, this has been just wonderful, just spending time chatting about your collection. I know I could talk a lot longer with 300 items. I mean, we could probably talk all night about some of the different stories and experiences. So, I do really appreciate you taking the time to come on tonight, and appreciate the folks over in the chat room who have sent in your questions. We had some really great questions and interactions
thank
tonight.
you.
Yes. So if you'll hold on just a few minutes, I'm going to wrap the show up, and then I'll tell you goodbye. And
Okay,
so I will see you here in a few minutes after the show. But thank you so much for coming on.
and thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you all again for spending the evening with us tonight. Like I said, be on the lookout for more information coming about some of the really cool events that we've got going on. Please keep in mind the third annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship that's going to take place on May 20th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're really excited about that and excited to be able to give a scholarship to a well-deserving student. Also, keep an eye out on the historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and YouTube channel for YouTube channel and also on the website for some really great things that we have coming up. Come and take one of our tours. May's shaping up to be a really great month full of escape rooms, flashlight tours, guided ghost hunts, and paranormal investigations. We're pretty well booked up for the month of May for private investigations, but we do have a few dates available, especially on Friday and Sunday nights. So if you would like to get in on an investigation with that, we actually just had a great filming session this past weekend with Haunted Discoveries. Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gadalori, they came and filmed here at the jail for one of their upcoming episodes, and we're just so very excited to see what they've captured. I know that's going to air in one of their later seasons. So, you know, come out, investigate like they did, and see what kind of activity you get. Also, we've got some really great guests coming up here during the month of May. We always excited when we kick the months off and can share who's going to be coming. And next week we're going to have Mr. TJ Justice, and actually I'm going to pull this up and just make sure I don't say a date wrong or anything, but we have Mr. TJ Justice, as well as it's going to be a two-part with Miss JB Coates. She's an author, and they're going to be talking about some of the great things that they've got coming up in the coming months as well. We've also, on the 18th, we're going to have Mr. Nando Desario from Portal to the Paranormal. He's from over in the UK, so we're always excited to have our friends from across the pond. He's also there with Parapost 2 International, which we are broadcasting live on right now. And then we're going to wrap the month up with a double header. I'm going to be on Mr. Rex Nielsen's show. His show airs just before this show, so we're going to do a two-parter. I'm going to be live on his show starting an hour and a half before this one, and then he's going to jump over and he's going to be on mine as well. I was able to meet him out at the Haygood Mill Paracon there in South Carolina. So we'll have more information about all of those coming up here very soon. Like I said, as well as some great events that's going on here. So again, thank you all so much. And like I said, just keep an eye out for different events and stuff that we've got coming up here with Ghost Biker Exploration. So until next week, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week to follow. Take care.